The rain had barely stopped when 16-year-old Emily wheeled herself to the bus stop that morning. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her backpack on the back of her chair. She hated mornings like this, when the streets were wet, and the ramp near her apartment building became slippery. But she had promised herself she wouldn't let her disability define her. She wanted to show up to school every single day, no matter how hard it was. Emily had been in a wheelchair since a car accident 3 years earlier. Before that, she had been the fastest runner on her school's track team. Now, she was forced to face the world from a very different perspective, one that often made her the target of cruel laughter and thoughtless comments. Most days, she could ignore it. Most days, she could keep her head high. But that morning, everything changed. As she reached the bus stop, a group of kids from her school was already there. They were the kind of students who always seemed to carry storms in their pockets, loud, restless, and itching to stir up trouble. Emily tried to keep her distance, rolling her chair toward the far corner. She kept her eyes on the road, praying silently for the bus to come quickly. But then, she heard it, the whispering, the snickering. "Look at her wheels," one boy muttered. "Bet she thinks she's special," another sneered. And then, before she could react, one of them stepped behind her chair and gave it a hard shove. Her world tilted. Her chair caught on the edge of the curb, and Emily toppled forward, hitting the ground. Her palms scraped against the wet pavement, and her backpack spilled open, scattering her notebooks and pens across the street. For a moment, everything was silent, just the sound of her ragged breathing and the laughter of the bullies echoing around her. Emily bit back tears. She had fallen before, but the sting of humiliation cut deeper than any scrape on her hands. She tried to push herself up, her arms trembling with the effort, but the boys only laughed harder. One of them mimicked her struggle, staggering around as if pretending to be stuck in an invisible chair. And that was when the rumble began. At first, Emily thought it was thunder rolling across the morning sky. But the sound grew louder, steadier, closer. She lifted her head, confused, and saw something she would never forget. From around the corner, one motorcycle appeared. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the street seemed to shake as an entire army of bikes rolled in. Leather jackets, helmets glinting in the gray light, engines growling like lions. They slowed down as they approached the bus stop, forming a protective wall between Emily and her tormentors. The bullies' laughter died instantly. Their smirks vanished as nearly 100 bikers parked in a perfect line, each of them dismounting with deliberate, intimidating calm. One man stepped forward. His beard was streaked with gray, his jacket decorated with patches that told stories Emily couldn't begin to understand. He crouched down beside her, his voice surprisingly gentle. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked. Emily swallowed hard, nodding even though her throat was tight with emotion. I just fell." The man looked at the scrapes on her palms, then at the boys standing frozen in shock. His eyes narrowed, sharp as steel. "Did you just fall?" he said slowly, "or did someone help you fall?" The boys shifted uncomfortably. None of them dared to speak. Another biker, a woman with fiery red hair braided down her back, knelt beside Emily and began gathering her scattered notebooks. She wiped them gently, tucking them back into her bag. "Don't you worry," she said softly. "We've got you." Emily's heart raced. She had never seen anything like it, the sheer size of the group, the way they carried themselves with quiet power. One by one, more bikers formed a circle around her, their presence like an unspoken promise: no one is going to hurt you again. The bearded man stood, his leather boots crunching against the pavement. He looked directly at the bullies. "Let me make something real clear," he said, his voice low but carrying enough weight to silence the entire block. "You don't touch her. You don't laugh at her. You don't even look at her the wrong way. Got it?" The boys nodded quickly, their faces pale. They tried to mumble excuses, but no one was listening. Within seconds, they scattered, running down the street without daring to look back. Emily sat there, stunned. The bikers helped her back into her chair, checking to make sure the wheels hadn't been damaged. The red-haired woman gave her a pair of gloves from her own bag, slipping them onto Emily's scraped hands. Why did you help me?" Emily whispered. The bearded man smiled, though his eyes still burned with fire. "Because once upon a time, we were all kids too. And some of us know what it feels like to be kicked when you're down. Nobody deserves that, not ever." For the first time in weeks, Emily felt her chest lighten. She wasn't alone. She wasn't invisible. These strangers, this massive, unlikely family, had chosen to stand beside her. From that day forward, everything changed. Word spread quickly around school about the morning when 99 bikers showed up to protect Emily. No one dared to mock her again. Even more than that, she found new courage within herself. She began to wheel into class with her head held high, knowing she had people in her corner, even if they weren't always there physically. But the story didn't end there. The bikers kept in touch. Some of them began showing up at her school events, sitting in the back row just to cheer her on. They taught her how to fix her chair when it squeaked, how to move through the world without apologizing for existing. And more importantly, they reminded her that strength wasn't about running the fastest lap on a track. Strength was about standing tall, even when you couldn't stand at all. Emily still had hard days. She still struggled, but every time she felt fear creeping in, she remembered the roar of those engines, the circle of bikers standing guard, and the way strangers had turned her darkest moment into a story of hope. By the end of the school year, Emily decided she wanted to share her story. She stood in front of her class, nervous, hands shaking slightly, and told them about the morning at the bus stop. She spoke about kindness, about courage, about how the smallest act of cruelty can break someone, but the smallest act of kindness can rebuild them. When she finished, the entire room was silent. Then, slowly, her classmates began to clap. Some even stood. It wasn't just applause, it was respect, it was acknowledgement, and in that moment, Emily realized the truth. She wasn't just the girl in the wheelchair. She was the girl who stood up, who kept moving, who inspired others to do the same. The world had tried to trip her, but she had an army behind her now, an army that reminded everyone watching that kindness is stronger than cruelty, and that sometimes, the loudest heroes ride on two wheels with engines that roar like thunder.